Welcome to episode 52 of Chat with a Chair. I'm Carol Coronas, CFMA's 2024-25 chair, and with me today is Bob Alton. He's a longtime CFMA member, CFO extraordinaire, currently working as a fractional CFO. Bob, you want to get us started on how you got to this place as being a fractional CFO? I know it was a very interesting journey with a little bit of a twist.
Good morning, Carol. Yeah, sure. I started off as a CPA, like most people in public accounting, and then ended up going into industry. And I've always been entrepreneurial and had clients and friends and people on the side that I would help out. And along the way, one of my side clients bought a roofing company. And he decided that it would be easier to teach me roofing than it would be to teach a roofer how to take care of the banking and the bonding and the lines of credits and all of the backroom stuff that it takes to run a business. So I got into construction and I loved it. It was my happy place as far as the type of work. And I remember driving around as a young family with two boys in the car saying, "Oh, I did that roof. I did that roof." We were in
Mhm.
commercial roofing, and so we got a lot of big things, and that was always a thrill. Even though my boys were smart enough to say, "But Dad, you didn't really build anything. You just shuffle paper."
Kids can bring you to reality, certainly.
So I was going along in the roofing industry for many years and was in the operations end, and then was recruited to move to Hawaii to become the estimating manager of the largest commercial roofing contractor in Hawaii. And that was wonderful. And I really appreciated the opportunity. But after several months, the owner of the company came to me knowing I had a background as a CPA and said, "Bob, I can find another estimating manager, but our CFO is really dropping the ball. Can you jump in and help out in that side?" And I said, "Okay, I haven't done this in many, many years. I'm willing to do it and work with you." So I became the vice president of finance for a large commercial roofing company, and I really enjoyed it. It was really fun to come back to the accounting side. And so after many years there in Hawaii, both my wife Susan and I lost our jobs within a week of each other.
Wow.
And everything in Hawaii is predicated on a pretty big income. And so we had an option. We could either have stayed in Hawaii and downsized and enjoyed living in paradise more, or we chose the second option of selling everything and moving into an RV and traveling. We we jumped in to the RV lifestyle, and being in our late 50s, we had options, and we didn't immediately just jump back into the workforce, but we did what was called work camping, where you can live in your RV and you do odd different kinds of jobs. And so that unique twist really provided a perspective to the whole work experience for Susan and I. For instance, we worked at the Amazon warehouse outside of Reno for a season, doing the everything that comes into Amazon and then goes out and is delivered. It all has to be checked in off of the trucks. And so we, for several months, were the ones checking all of the items that came in off of the trucks so that they could get the barcode so they could be on the shelf. And then later on, get picked off of the shelf and put in boxes for delivery.
Hmm.
That was a fun experience. Books are really big in Amazon. So we would get books that came in and we would scan cookbook after cookbook after cookbook after cookbook. Then we'd open up the next box and it would be diet book after diet book after diet book after diet book.
Go figure.
And
Americans cannot decide what they want to do for sure.
it's just a paradox. So
Many
then
options.
we ended up um, moving around and ended up in Texas and did gate guarding down in the oil fields where we had to live in the RV full time, and everybody coming into that drilling oil rig drilling site had to be
Mhm.
checked in so that if it blew up, they knew how many bodies to look for.
Uh, oh
But
gosh, that's not a good that's not a good position to be in, but I understand you did it, and it was just so different than what you had been doing, and it reminds me of that movie Nomadland with Frances McDormand that I saw. Did you see some similarities in what you were doing? I know the situation that brought you there was quite different.
you know, that was a wonderful movie that captured the essence of the RV lifestyle and traveling just perfectly. The scenes in that movie of being on a canyon rim at sunset or sunrise,
Hmm.
the type of experiences that you have working on the road and encountering different people was just so wonderful. And now, of course, it was better for Susan and I because we had more means. We
Hmm.
weren't forced into living in our RV, but we loved that movie and the whole spirit that it captured.
Yeah, I mean, looking at the differences between what CFOs and accountants in general deal with and what you were able to go through in that journey, I know it was just a lot, and it brought a lot of value and a lot of experiences to you and Susan. So those are experiences that a lot of us just don't have the opportunity or haven't had the opportunity to do. So all of that journey ended up bringing you back into the fractional CFO lifestyle. Can you tell us about how you ended up, how that journey ended and your next journey started?
Well, after traveling around and doing those different types of jobs at work camping, I figured out that I still am a CPA and had something more to contribute and wasn't ready to give it up at that point. And so we ended up in San Antonio, and I ended up working for construction companies. I had first a small general contractor and then a larger electrical subcontractor, and thoroughly enjoyed my time there. It was like a capstone on my career to be able to contribute to that. We started off with just 100 employees in Texas, and by the time that I left that company, they were operating in 8 states with over 350 employees. So the being involved in a company during a growth time like that's an exciting, invigorating
Hmm.
time to be involved in. So that's the time frame that I was the most active in CFMA, and I got my CCIFP, and everything really came together. But it all has to come to an end. And so in 2019, I left that position, and Susan and I took a 9-month RV trip cross country, and it was terrific. We embedded ourselves in like a month in Washington, D.C., just to see all the monuments and everything. We were all across the Northeast. Our fifth wheel trailer has been in 49 states.
Wow.
So we've really enjoyed the travel.
You guys have really,
After,
yeah, you guys have really done it up right. I know those are opportunities and options that most of us wish we had, but I know you'll be talking a little bit more about looking into that and just making sure that you're available to take advantage of those opportunities when they do come up.
yes, I encourage people to travel and make sure to take your vacations and do interesting things because the things that you travel to and the places that you see make you a more interesting person. That 9 month trip, on top of the experiences that we had had several years earlier, moving from Hawaii, provided me some interesting perspectives. A lot of the jobs that I was doing were similar to what other CFMA members do on a daily basis. I was in the board meetings, preparing the work in progress schedules, doing the cash flow projections, making sure that everything's in compliance as far as all the jurisdictions that we have to track and follow,
Mhm.
managing teams of 8 to 10 people in payables, receivables, payroll, all of the usual scope of work that a CFO performs on a daily basis. Well, when I finished that 9 month RV trip, I realized that I wasn't ready to just retire. I didn't want to just drop off a cliff and lose all that. And I think that this experience and insight can help people that are locked into that chair or that are sitting there thinking about what their future holds and what are the options. So I'm excited to share that if you plan when you're in your 40s and 50s and you look ahead a little bit to the next segment or the next phase of your life, design it so that you have options. Design it so that there's some interesting, fun things that can be incorporated in that. And for me, it really crystallized when I met Tim Geppert at Central Texas CFOs. As a fractional CFO, it provides me with the freedom, the flexibility, and the additional income. And more than anything else, it feeds my passion for making a difference and connecting with people.
That's always impressed me about you, Bob, ever since I met you, your ability to connect. And that's one thing that I know that CFMA brings to a lot of us is that ability to connect people we meet with other people within our chapters, within regional, even within national CFMA and our daily work lives. It's phenomenal. And so you are one of the best at connecting. Can you just tell us maybe a few words about some of your talents that you use in order to do that?
It's so interesting. I've mentioned this before, Carol. You call it like a talent, but it's really just being authentic and being yourself and taking a genuine interest in those around you. And when you connect with people, just listen to their story and share your story. And by being authentic, you can make that connection. I can say something more about Central Texas CFOs and Tim Geppert's organization. Everybody involved in that network is servant leadership oriented. And that servant leadership orientation really lends itself to the CFO, the fractional CFO concept. Um, when we come into a client, it's not so much us telling you how much accounting we know. It's about listening to what the client has to say, what their problems are, what their aspirations may be. And by listening to what the client is saying, then how best can your skills and abilities provide service to those clients? And by being an advocate for the client, we can embed ourselves into their organization and into their lives, and we can help them improve their total experience. So often, it's my belief that CPAs, especially, are so focused on compliance and
Mhm.
making the deadlines and making sure that the forms are correct and making sure that every jurisdiction and every tax problem is solved or every audit checklist is done. But there's a whole nother level of service that can be provided beyond compliance. It's the management reporting. It's explaining to somebody what the difference between a balance sheet and a P&L is, or how the work in progress bridges and how it impacts the bottom line. And being able to communicate those concepts to a typical plumber, roofer, electrician is part of that connectedness that you speak of.
I can definitely see your passion in that, even when you speak about it, being helpful, being able to be that person who can help to guide the ship and being an advocate. I think it's a wonderful thing to do. And even though I'm sitting in the desk all day, I strive to do that with my board and making some of the connections, some of the things that you've shown me how to do, which I really, really have appreciated. I want to talk now a little bit about another very, very interesting thing that you brought to my attention, and that is the book Die with Zero. It's a great book, and I know that you said that you actually, when you first read it, it brought some things to mind, and I'd like to hear from your own voice how it impacted you and some of the things that you saw come from it.
Well, Carol, sometimes you find a book that enters into your experience and your life, and you just go, this is it.
Mm-hmm.
And the book Die with Zero by Bill Perkins did that for me. A client recommended it to me. And when I read it, it was a validation of how Susan and I had lived our lives and how we invested in experiences. Um, Too many of us in the type A entrepreneurial mindset keep working, and we're told by the investment industry that there's never enough, that we need to save more. If you have $1 million saved for retirement, you better make sure you get $2 million. And we keep working and working and working. Bill Perkins suggests that if you die with anything in your bank account, then you've been inefficient. From an engineering standpoint, you've put too much effort and time into work or something that's taken you away from what you wanted to do. And so he's encouraging you to die with zero money and die with zero regrets. And the way to do that is to fill your memory banks throughout your life. Make sure you have experiences that are going to pay dividends in memories. And I'm sure you, as well as everybody listening, is going to think back on those wonderful trips or experiences or family times when you've been together, and you can understand the concept of a memory dividend.
Uh, Definitely. I mean, memories are really what make us. We are today the memories that we've set up in the past. And I know that Bill Perkins talks about being intentional and setting up buckets of time within your life. And I think that's very important too, because there are things that happen within the seasons of our life that I think we need to go and seize upon or before they're gone.
When you mention that seasons of your life, Carol, that really triggers it for me so much that throughout our lives, our wealth increases and our health is decreasing. And you may be 60, 70, 80 years old and be as healthy as you possibly can be, but you're not able to do as many activities, even if you're in the best of shape, that you might have done in your 40s and 50s. So you better climb Mount Everest when you're when you're younger, or go snow skiing more, or take that skydiving lesson. Because when you have enough money to pay for it all, when you're older, you may not have the health to do it. And so we just need this little nudge. We need this reminder. This isn't for everybody. You need to be at a certain subsistence level of having a way of seeing your financial success, of seeing your future self in a place that's debt free, in a place where you have some accumulation. But what Bill Perkins suggests is that most of us die in our 80s, and then we transfer whatever's left over to the next generation, and they're in their 50s and 60s. They don't need your money and your legacy wealth when they're at that age of their lives. He suggests to people, if you have enough money and you know that you have enough to last the rest of your life, start giving your money away while you're still alive. So then you can see the effects that it has on other people, and they can use it during the time that they need it the most. So the book is full of logical concepts that we can all benefit from, that can really guide your life and make you think twice about working overtime, working that extra weekend, foregoing a vacation, or working an extra year just to get a little more money in the retirement bucket. Analyze it. Do you really need it? Or is now the time to take off and invest in more experiences?
Yeah, I know I've shared with you the friend that I had who worked all his life. He was always talking about putting up money for his retirement. And unfortunately, he died at the age of 50 with all of his money in the bank, never having enjoyed it. So seeing those kind of things happen, I think will bring it to life. And I know you've mentioned a few things that happened when you shared this book with others.
So after my client shared this book with me, I went out and bought 30 copies and I distributed it amongst all my clients and all my family and friends and anybody who would take a copy. And the results and the impact that this book has had on this small population has been tremendous. I had one friend who immediately after reading the book sat down and wrote large checks to his two sons that were in their 20s and just been married and just buying their first homes and just, thinking about building families. And now to get an influx of capital, his parents were fine. They have enough money to last the rest of their lives, but why wait? And those kids were so grateful, and they've gone off and done good things. Now their student loans are paid off. They have equity, starting equity in their homes. They're able to buy homes. There's so many things that happen early on in life that you need capital for. And another client, owner of a small business, um, had to be there, working all the time and involved, was making plenty of money, is making plenty of money. And he has two college age kids. And he knows that when they graduate from college, they're going to be gone. They're going to go their own ways and live their own lives. He decided one summer that he was going to take 4 weeks off and go and do a week's vacation to a destination of each family member's choice. I think he wanted to go fishing up in Alaska on a lake and a flying fishing. His wife wanted to see some castles in Scotland, and his daughter wanted to go to a beach, or maybe, I don't know, they might have gone to Europe to see the Louvre. But to think of taking time out of your schedule, away from your small business that's like another child to you,
Yeah.
and you have to write some pretty big checks to make these worldwide trips like this, that he took a month off, and it changed the trajectory of his family, because they will always have that memory bank, that dividend that will pay dividends over time.
I think the things that you're mentioning and the bucket lists that are aligned more toward time, and being very aware of that can just really change your life. And I appreciate your bringing that to me. And I hope the people listening to the podcast will be interested in looking at the book, Die with Zero, some of the things that Bob has brought to us, and just being more intentional about some of the options that you're creating in your life rather than putting everything off until the end. So, Bob, do you have some few parting words you'd like to leave with the people listening?
Well, I kind of hit on it earlier, Carol. Just live a life and be authentic for yourself as well as other people. Be genuine and look in the mirror and have a level of self-awareness. Be aware of what you want to accomplish out of life. And if it is building a legacy and if it's important to you that you leave a bunch of money to somebody else, then go for it. Work and enjoy that. But just do it intentionally, do it consciously. If you realize that life is short and we don't know what the end is going to hold, then let's make sure that we're making deposits in that memory bank and that we're enjoying ourselves. And one way to do that from a CFO perspective, I mean, we can see the efficiency of not over saving, but is to manage your career and think about what the possibilities and the options and what kind of flexibility. You went into accounting because it's the language of business and it's reinforcing what you know about how a business ticks. You can take whatever specialty you've focused on in your career, and as you get older, you can still contribute and you can still feel good about having a place at the table by serving this group of clients. I believe that there is a group of clients in every marketplace, whether they be roofers, plumbers, or electricians, or whatever trade, but in construction, the typical construction company will start off with a person having an idea about providing a service, and they'll go out and they'll buy a truck or a van and they'll do the work themselves, and their wives may do the QuickBooks in the evenings after her job is finished. And then later on, that business will grow to two, three, four, five vans or trucks. And pretty soon you're doing home building or you're moving on into commercial. And then you start to see the world out there as what about the municipal or the state contracts or the federal work? Well, as we know, that requires an assurance review or audit. And that's like a big stepping point for a lot of these smaller companies. They're not big enough to afford a six-figure CFO sitting in the seat, but they can afford a fractional person coming in on an hourly basis to help them close the months, make the journal entries, and they can work on the work in progress. One of the biggest services that I can provide my clients is my understanding of what the banks and bonding companies are looking for. And I can help these smaller companies arrange their books and provide the information that's necessary. So I can take a shoebox or a QuickBooks report from a
Mm,
small company and I can put it in a format and I can make a set of work papers that I can be a liaison between the client and the outside CPA. I don't do any assurance work. I don't do any tax work, but I focus on providing a service to the client to make their reviewed financial statement cost every year come down because we can organize the work papers in a clean fashion. Or I can, because of my network of people that we've known, if I see a company that's growing, they're good people and they're ready to take the next step. But what do you need to do that? It's working capital. Well, we have relationships through Central Texas CFOs where we can go to these banks and we can talk to people that we know and say, hey, how about a line of credit over here? How about some, equipment financing? All of the things that are needed to get a company raised up to the next level. And those are the kinds of services that a fractional CFO can provide. And that's what brings a lot of satisfaction to my life.
And the fractional CFO, that position and that framework definitely allows you to do that. And I know CFMA also produces a lot of content to help keep you up to date. So that's also important when we're out there in the world trying to do things like this. But it's great knowing that there are options like what you're saying, both for the companies, but for us too, as we reach that point in our careers where we may not want to be full time. So thank you for bringing that to us too and letting us know about it. It's been great talking to you today, Bob. You have a lot to say, and I hope that the people listening can hear some of those pearls of wisdom that I was hearing, as well as looking into the book Die with Zero, and just for fun and perspective, maybe also the movie Nomadland. Thanks again, Bob. Really appreciate it. Until next time, we're out with Chat with the Chair.